Well, all right. Welcome to a candid conversation with lawmakers. Now, listen, this isn't Vegas where what's said here stays here. What you say
Is it
here is going to
recorded,
go
though? Is it?
around the country and around the world, and I can't wait to get started. First, to my left, I am excited to welcome State Senator Patricia Rucker. Now, of all the things in her bio, I've just got to say teacher, homeschooler, state senator, and also mother. Welcome, welcome. We also have joining us today State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, the architect of the Pennsylvania charter school legislation. Thank you for that. Thank you, sir. And from my adopted hometown, Washington, D.C., my heart, Kevin Chavous. He's done so many things, the CEO of Stride, K-12 at one point, an elected official in Washington, D.C., instrumental in ensuring that charters and choice could come to D.C. to the extent that today there are 130 plus charter schools, 117 traditional public schools, but almost half the children in D.C. are in charters, and so their families have choice. But let me just say this. For over a decade, on my desk has been a book, and it is Voices of Determination, Children Who Defied the Odds. And the author of that book is Kevin Chavous.
Thank you,
welcome.
Patricia. I can leave now, right?
Not yet. We need to hear a little bit from you. So I'm going to start with the first question, that is this. Well, the first question they gave me was, how do lawmakers accelerate progress on education initiatives? But you know what, friends? We are post a pandemic. We can't even talk about progress because in some of our cities, we're back 10 years from where we were before that pandemic started. So I'm going to ask each of you, how can lawmakers get our kids back on track? What can you do to help our children have the future that they so deserve by getting the education today that they need?
What an important but also really difficult question, I have to say. I'm really truly heartbroken by the challenges that are facing our schools, our kids, the teachers. The COVID pandemic, the schools closing down for weeks, months, depending on where you were, and just the disparity of services available really, really caused a disservice. And we taught our kids to be afraid. We literally caused them to be afraid. I mean, we have such trouble now with mental health disorders, with anxiety, and the drop-off of students that went to college after COVID has been unbelievable. So we definitely have a serious crisis when it comes to overcome those things. And I will say that it sounds like I am just catering to where I am, but school choice is absolutely a crucial component. When you are empowering parents and students to make a decision over where they want to go and what they feel they need best, you are really empowering them to let you know what it is that is going to help them overcome whatever challenge they're facing. And the reality is that empowerment comes when there is choice. Just having an assigned school that was artificially drawn around you and you're told this is where you have to go, it's the opposite of empowerment. It is actually disenfranchising. And I really believe that especially now more than ever, whatever that child need, as a state, we need to make certain that we provide, and that absolutely includes school choice.
Excellent, thank you. Empowerment and enfranchisement.
I think your question was, how do we make this the issue of the moment? And there's two things I would say. One, we have to force the public to become aware of the conditions that their children are in. Most of America is in this haze that thinks that we're okay. We are not okay. Rural Pennsylvania is no different than urban Pennsylvania. They both don't have really great schools, and they are the majority of where Americans live. And the reality is, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I came a little bit late, I apologize, but I listened to the speakers, and when they talk about the federal level, if this administration wants to unify Democrats and Republicans, truly, the lane that we need to be in is the lane of where we are as a country. We are in crisis. We will not be defeated militarily. We will not be defeated economically. We will be defeated because our children are not as educated as other countries. And that's the reality. There are so many other countries which are smaller than us, have less money than us, where their children are speaking multiple languages. They're learning about an economy. They learn how to save money. They know how to buy land in America. And we are asleep at the wheel. So my hope would be, whether I voted for him or not, that Donald Trump would use the bully pulpit, which he's very good at, saying that we are in trouble in America. Yes, we can talk about the border. Yes, we can talk about crime. Yes, we can talk about crime. But first, we have to fix the problem of education in this country that our children are suffering from.
First of all, it's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're in, and I've known this brother a long time. I was just going to shut up and listen to you keep talking. So, we could talk about the power of parental choice, school choice, education freedom. A lot of people have done that. And we could give advice to the president. I want to focus on what legislators could do now. And some mentioned it earlier, but this whole idea of trying to find common ground around education issues, I think still has traction. I mean, Governor Polis talked about the 67% in that one referendum. Heard Kellyanne Conway talk about it. This should be the unifying issue that brings us together. Now, we can talk about the NAEP scores and how bad we're doing, but I think that one way to sort of build alliances with folks on the other side of the aisle is not to just celebrate what's not working, but to excite what's possible. And I think one way to excite what's possible is to lift up those stories in these charter schools, traditional schools, private schools, religious schools, specialty schools, magnet schools, all these schools that are doing great things to excite what's possible and find ways to build common ground. I want to urge each of you to read Rick Hess and Pedro Nogueira's book, In Search of Common Ground. These are Republican, and Democrat academicians, and they have different views on education and educational choice, and one wrote an op-ed and the other blasted him for it. They reached out and talked to each other, and they decided, what we should do? We're going to write letters to each other on these important educational issues of the day. And then they responded back and forth, and then it made it into a book. And the power behind it is important for an instructor for what we're facing today on this issue, because they both said that two realities came out. One is they had a better understanding as to why the other person believed the way they did, even though they may not have changed their mind after understanding why. But the other real significant thing when you're talking about building alliances is they no longer assume bad intentions from the other guy. I think you should read that book. And if there's one way to engage legislators is to build this whole approach to collaboration around what's possible for kids, and also understanding in deep-seated, real, meaningful conversations, understanding where the other side's coming from, and then recognizing that we can find common ground without necessarily thinking the other person's bad, or they hate us, or they don't believe what we believe.
But it's so much more fun to talk about the people that hate us and the ones that we might hate. But I understand.
That's the shadow
where you're
Kevin.
coming
You
from.
don't want to see the shadow Kevin tonight. I'm like,
All right,
I'm
it's the
doubting.
Kevin that's in the light. At Friendship Schools, we educate almost 5,000 children, and we are 27, 28 years old. And I love when people talk about our charter schools a fad, because I'm like, when you're nearly 30 years old, the fad is over. I mean, you're just here. But it struck us for many years, we just thought we were going to close the schoolhouse doors and we were going to educate hard and love hard and serve our children and not think about what happened outside of it. And then we realized that in politics, people were encroaching upon our funding, our freedom, our flexibility. And so, as elected officials, you stand in the breach for us. And so my question to each of you is, what is it that you say to the new administration about how you make schools the places that they need to be for your constituents? What is your message to President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance for schools and for the children?
Thank you so much for asking that question, because I heard the previous panel and I had my own thoughts I would love to share with the administration. You know, I'm very grateful that they mention education as part of the platform and that they have said that they support school choice as a concept. I will tell you the biggest problem with the Department of Education, the federal Department of Education, is the regulations. It's all the strings attached. And one of the beautiful things about charter schools is it was supposed to be an experiment of taking away those regulations and allowing innovation. And it has succeeded beyond the wildest dreams of the people who first conceived of it. And the charter schools are showing how well they can do. But like you said, there are legislators who want to fetter them again. And a lot of those restrictions come from that federal Department of Education. And as we heard earlier, things like the money to help give kids lunches, not following them to these other opportunities just doesn't make absolutely any sense. If I had the opportunity to tell them, I would remind them, every single child matters. Every single child matters. And if our goal is to fund the child, not the school building, not the program, fund the child. Take away those rules and regulations. Stop looking for ways to tie and put it into a box, and instead let that funding follow that child wherever it is that they choose to go. And I can't even tell you, those legislators who would like to put that in, I'll just use some of those stories that we have so many of as to why you don't need the restrictions. The educators, the professionals, they know what to do, and the parents are choosing that.
Thank you. All right.
So one of the challenges we have in education among the overseers or funders is many of the people who opine about what is best for schools haven't been to schools in years. They haven't been in a classroom. They may go for a photo op or career day. And the reality is that schools of tomorrow, which is beginning to take shape today, look nothing like the schools of yesterday. And part of State Department of Education is part of the Federal Department of Education. Their policies, their way they approach funding, the way they approach regulations, sometimes feeling more punitive than they should, it's all grounded in the schools of yesteryear. So the first thing that I would suggest, that as we dole out federal dollars to states, let's incent innovation and creativity. Because the schools of tomorrow are going to be so grounded in the digital age, in the digital experience for children, which is a foreign entity to many of the people who are funding schools these days, that anything that makes sense from an innovative and creative point of view for school systems or school districts, the federal government should find a way to incent it and pull back from the punitive, politically dictatorial policies that many times federal funds are tied to. So I think that, yes, we want to have more school choice, educational freedom. Yes, there's a way we can bring people together through education, but the federal government, Department of Education, I think, should be all in, lean into this notion of innovation and creativity and find ways to incent states to do more of it.
Thank you.
I think I want to make sure I'm answering your question. Basically, what should we be talking about relative to what should we be saying relative to why schools are created? You said that we created these schools, we thought they were a vacuum, and all we did was shut the doors and educate your children. Then we discovered there was other stuff going on. And I think it's very simple. We need to remind ourselves as a nation why we created public education in the first place and how those schools were created. I didn't say educate that same way, but I did remind ourselves so that schools are communities by design. Farming community allowed their children to become formally educated, but they never lost the culture of the farming community. Urban communities had different types of schools, so you knew who your teacher was. Teacher knew how to talk to their students and connect with. That is gone. The connectivity between a school building and the community is like a wall between two countries. And we need to remind ourselves, federal, state, and local, that these schools are there to serve that community, so therefore they have to be an extension community, which means they have to understand how to connect with community. We are bilingual, we are multicultural, we have so many different ways of communicating, and we have so many educators who are coming out of college not prepared to do any of that. And that's a reflection of because now education, public education in particular, has just become something standing in of itself as opposed to standing connected with those that they're trying to educate.
All right, we're down to the last 2 minutes. So it's the lightning round, and I have a quick question. As you look forward to the future, are you hopeful or hopeless? And tell us why. 30 seconds each. Let's go.
Hopeful. I think we have a new dawn of understanding and support for school choice and empowering parents, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm a pragmatic, hopeful soul. I think that this is the approach we should take when we talk to legislators, even if they're on the other side of the aisle or people with different political stripes than you. We should all embrace education policy or education proposals based on one simple yardstick, one question that if we answer yes, we support it. If we answer no, we're against it. Will this help a child or group of children learn? That's it. If the answer is yes, as my great aunt used to say in South Carolina, I'm for it. If not, I'm against it. And I really think that that's the approach we need to take going forward, that there's so much swirling around this educational bubble, and there's so much politics in the midst of all that, that if we can ratchet it down to answering that one simple question, will this help a child or group of children learn? And if the answer is yes, we go full force. And I think that's something that, irrespective of which political side of the aisle you're on, should be a building block for collaborative education policy that works.
Am I allowed to answer? That says 0. I'm just going to check. Look, I am above 60. So I woke up this morning, so I'm extremely hopeful, okay, that I can see tomorrow. I also am a certain type of elected official. I'm a Democrat, but I'm not the Democrat who doesn't talk to Republicans or independents or libertarians, right? And in chaos, there's always a leveraged opportunity. This is the greatest moment that America will see for the next century because we think we're so close to the precipice because of a personality. America is the greatest country in the world. I'm an American. Despite its imperfections, it will always trend forward. And so this space is a platform for us to announce our existence and require that these folks listen to us in ways that they haven't. So I'm extremely hopeful and grateful.
If you came into this room today, you passed children, young people of Friendship Public Charter School. They are all going to be graduates of 2025, and they will all tell you that they are on their way to college, hopefully with some scholarships and internships from you all. And if you saw them, you can have nothing but hope because they are the greatest generation and they will take us forward. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.